Hello everyone. So today we'll start with our next topic of the first unit, that is major schools of yoga. They are basically Gyan Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Patanjali, or popularly known as Raja Yoga, and Hatha Yoga. So now we are starting our next topic, that is paths of yoga or the different schools of yoga. Just as there are different philosophies based on different interpretations of the scriptures in the world, there are different schools of yoga as propounded by different texts or different masters. The goal of yoga may be one, but the paths described for its attainment are innumerable. Therefore, human beings with different personalities find the presence of different yogic paths for their spiritual unfoldment. Yet, just as the mountain top can be reached by taking two different routes, all paths in the spiritual realm lead to the same goal. Many people find that as they progress through their lives, more than one path addresses their spiritual needs. There are a number of recognized paths of yoga, of which some have gained prominence in the ancient culture of India. These paths are Gyan Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Hatha Yoga. Gyan Yoga. Jnana in Sanskrit means knowledge. Hence, Gyan Yoga is also called the path of knowledge. It shows the path of realization, self-realization through discerning the eternal from the non-eternal, the real from the unreal. In Sankhya Yoga, it is the discrimination between the Purush and the Prakriti. It is a practice of discrimination between the self and the non-self until the real self is realized in the moment of liberation. Gyan Yoga is typically characteristic of the non-dualistic or Advait Vedanta path. In all Indian philosophies, the mind is considered as an obstacle in realizing the self. Hence, the mind has to be transcended, and it has to be done by using the mind itself. The principal techniques of this path are contemplation and meditation. Gyan Yoga is also known as the treacherous path and is so deep that it is commonly the last path achieved or undertaken. Taking into account the philosophy of Vedanta, the Gyan Yogi uses his mind to inquire into its own nature. Just like we perceive the space between inside and outside a glass as different, we see ourselves as separate from God. Gyan Yoga leads the practitioner to experience his unity with God or the supreme reality directly by breaking the glass, dissolving the veils of ignorance. There are mainly three stages of Gyan Yoga practice, which are Shravan, Manan, and Nididhyasan. Shravan, that means listening or absorbing the instructions. Manan, reflection or contemplation involving reasoning and arriving at intellectual convictions. And what is Nididhyasan? Repeated meditation on convictions, truths, accepted or implementation of convictions, or attaining to oneness with reality. Shravan is quite significant in the spiritual path. It refers to absorption of spiritual information, knowledge from various sources like scriptures, guru, wise people, etc. Manan is contemplating or reflecting repeatedly over what one has heard, removing doubts if there are any, and arriving at one's own convictions. Just like an animal chews the swallowed food, a disciplined person is supposed to recollect the heard object within his mind again and again. Nididhyasana refers to meditation, wherein one realizes the truth of convictions arrived at by Manan. In general terms, Nididhyasana may also be understood as implementation of convictions attained to in Manan. Bhakti Yoga. Unconditional and intense love for God is Bhakti. Bhakti Yoga is a yoga or path of devotion. It is in it there is an emphasis on opening of the heart to divine love, an opportunity for the union of lover with the beloved, with the divine. This devotion often manifests into singing bhajans or holy songs or chanting or praises of the divinity. Sometimes this may happen ecstatic repetition of the names of the Lord in gatherings like kirtans. Bhakti Yoga does not tell you where to direct that devotion or the specific methods by which you should do it. That is left to the devotee's personal preferences. In modern times, bhakti or devotion is many a times seen as the easiest path of yoga to be adopted. It involves complete surrendering of the bhakt or devotee at the altar of the Lord. This surrendering helps the devotee to channelize his or her emotions rather than reading them. Thus, there happens sublimation of emotions rather than suppression. The path of devotion involves love of and devotion towards a personal God. Techniques of bhakti are innumerable. Like for example, prayers. बहुत से तरीके होते हैं भक्ति के. आप ईश्वर की प्रार्थना करके या बार बार मंत्र जप करके भी भक्ति में बह सकते हैं, या फिर आप ईश्वर के बारे में कहानियाँ सुना के relating or listening to stories of gods and saints, पूजास, ceremonies and rituals. बहुत से तरीके हैं भक्ति में लीन होने के. Bhakti involves a mystical relationship with God, who may be variously considered as a friend, a child, a mother, or a teacher. The greatest benefit of devotion or bhakti is that it rids the aspirant of ego and egocentricity. Because it involves self-surrendering, bhakti automatically develops humility and the feeling of being an instrument in the hands of God. Though bhakti is endowed as a result of God's grace, yet it can be cultivated by us through constant practice of engaging ourselves in meaningful devotional activities that can bring us closer to the Lord for His grace to flow through us. Srimad Bhagavatam elaborates the 9 forms of bhakti, which are called as Navvida Bhakti, if cultivated and practiced regularly, will no doubt lead us closer to the Lord. A devotee can actually practice any of these 9 forms of bhakti, whichever suits him or her. These 9 forms of devotion are as follows. Shravanam, hearing the chants of names and glories of the Lord. It means listening to the divine glories of the Lord about His form, qualities, leelas or divine plays, His miracles and His spoken words like in the Bhagavad Gita. Kirtanam, chanting His glories. It involves singing the praises of the Lord's infinite powers with intense devotion. Chanting God's name brings relief to the devotee's mind. Smaranam, ईश्वर को याद करना, Remembering the Lord. It involves constant remembrance of the Lord, feeling His presence all the time, in all the places, in all the tasks. It is to lose oneself in the contemplation, His qualities. पाद सेवनम, ईश्वर के चरणों की सेवा करना. Serving the Lord's feet or His sanctified sandals. Paduka. In honoring the feet of the Lord, the devotee surrenders himself completely at the lotus feet of the Lord. Archanam. Worshipping the Lord. ईश्वर की पूजा करना. It is the complete offering in the form of pujas or ritualistic worship, chanting mantras, singing bhajans, offering arti, food, flowers and even clothes to the Supreme. Vandanam. Saluting the Lord. It is offering obeisance unto the Lord. This may involve bowing before the Lord or touching the feet of the Lord. Gradually this leads to devotee seeing the favorite form of his Lord everywhere and all the time. Dasyam involves adopting the role of a servant of the Lord. There is complete subjugation of the ego here. In course of time, the devotee sees himself also as a servant of the other devotees of the Lord. Dasyam refers to a heartfelt yearning to be of personal service to the Supreme. It is the ultimate expression of humility, yet it is bold in its aspiration to such a lofty position. Sakhyam. साख्यम का अर्थ है दोस्ती करना, developing friendship with the Lord. In this form of worship, devotion, the devotee adopts the role of a friend or sakha of the Lord. Atma Nivedanam. This is the last one, the ninth one. This involves total surrender of oneself to the Lord. Even the smallest trace of ego is eliminated in this form of devotion to the Lord and His will. Completely filled with devotion to God, the devotee gains the knowledge of his true self in this form of devotion, where the devotee and the Lord become one. Karma. Karma Yoga. Karma means action. Yoga means union. Karma Yoga means yoga or union through action. It is the path chosen primarily by those of an outgoing or action-oriented nature. It purifies the heart by teaching the aspirant to act selflessly without thinking of personal gain or reward. By detaching yourself from the fruits of your action and offering them to God, you learn to sublimate the ego. According to the Bhagavad Gita, Karma Yoga is a selfless devotion of all inner as well as outer activities as a sacrifice to the Lord of all works, offered to the Eternal as master of all souls, energies and austerities. जैसा कि भगवद गीता में कहा भी गया है, कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन, अर्थात कर्म करते जाओ, फल की इच्छा ना रखो. The choice for a human being is not between action and inaction, because we cannot remain without acting. The choice is regarding what sort of actions to perform and with what attitude or approach. कर्म और अकर्म के बीच में किसी तरह का कोई चुनाव नहीं करना होता है मनुष्य को. किस तरह के कर्म आप करेंगे, इनके बीच में चुनाव करना है. Karma is of three types for common human beings. Virtuous और auspicious, जिसे हम शुक्ल कर्म कहते हैं, यानी अच्छे कर्म. Non-virtuous और inauspicious, जिसे हम कृष्ण कर्म भी कहते हैं, जिसमें also be called as विकर्म, and a mixture of the two. Shukla Krishna karma. Every human being impulsively engages in doing karma, the act, with the body of or with the speech or with the mind. All men are forced to act helplessly according to the impulses born of the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Then how is it possible to get away from the constant cycle of karma and karma phal or karma sanskara, the act and its result? This seems to be not possible. A very few significant and popular shlokas in the Bhagavad Gita with regard to karma yoga, जैसे कि मैंने पहले भी कहा, एक बहुत ही इम्पॉर्टेंट श्लोक और बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण श्लोक हमने भगवद गीता में पढ़ा है। दूसरे अध्याय का 47वां श्लोक कहता है, कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्म फल हेतुर्भुर्मा तत्संगोत्सु कर्मणि. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of the action. कर्म करते जाइए फल की इच्छा ना रखते हुए. दूसरे अध्याय का 48वां श्लोक कहता है, योगस्थ कुरु कर्माणि संगम त्यक्त्वा धनंजय सिद्ध असिद्धयो समो भूत्वा समत्वम योग उच्यते. योग कर्म में कुशलता की बात करता है. The worker who is free from all material attachments and false ego, who is enthusiastic and resolute, and who is indifferent to success or failure, is a sattvic performer of deeds in the righteous path. पतंजलि योग, जिसे कि हम राजयोग के नाम से भी जानते हैं. राजयोग means royal or kingly yoga. It is the supposed climax of all different parts of yoga. In fact, Swatmaram ji in his Hatha Yoga Pradipika says that Hatha Yoga is a staircase leading to Raj Yoga. स्वामी स्वात्माराम ने हठ योग प्रदीपिका में बताया है कि हठ योग एक सीढ़ी के समान है जो कि हमें राजयोग की तरफ लेके जाती है. राजयोग here may not refer to a particular form of yoga but to the ultimate state of self-realization. Thanks to Swami Vivekananda, Raja Yoga came to be understood as yoga propounded by Maharshi Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras. Patanjali's yoga is mind-oriented and meditation is the highest practice therein. The final goal of all forms of yoga is to have a healthy body and mind in order to transcend the mind and go to the no mind state or the manonmani avastha, wherein there is the experience of self-realization. In Maharshi Patanjali's words, it is tada drishtu swarupe avasthanam. Raja Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali aims at restraining to the point of cessation of mental modifications so that real self within is stored to its pristine purity. Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga is sourced from Tantra. It is a form of yoga which is more physically oriented. Most Hatha Yoga systems begin with purification practices, जिन्हें हम शोधन क्रियाज के नाम से जानते हैं या षट कर्मों के नाम से भी जानते हैं. As against Maharshi Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, which begins with Yam and Niyam. There are several texts of Hatha Yoga, जैसे कि स्वामी स्वात्माराम जी द्वारा रचित हठ योग प्रदीपिका, स्वामी घेरंड महर्षि घेरंड द्वारा रचित घेरंड संहिता, गोरखनाथ जी द्वारा रचित गोरक्ष संहिता, शिव संहिता, योग हठ रत्नावली, योग तारावली इत्यादि. The word hati is a Sanskrit combination of the words ह एंड ठ। ह अर्थात सन या सूर्य नाड़ी, ठ यानी कि चंद्र नाड़ी, which is in itself a union of the opposites. Qualities associated with the sun are heat, masculinity and effort, while the moon qualities are coolness, femininity and surrender. Hatha Yoga is designed to help us bring pairs of opposites together in our heart, mind and body for the purpose of discovering something deeper about the nature of our existence. The practice of yoga brings together apparent opposites into a harmonious union to find a place in the middle. This place is a gateway into a whole new world for most of us. It is a place where we discover wonderful new things about our abilities and possibilities for our lives. The term hatha is wrongly understood as stubbornness or persisting beyond one's limit. अपने शरीर के साथ जोर ज़बरदस्ती करना हठ योग नहीं है. In Hatha Yoga, the term hut is symbolically used. The term hut in the union of two letters, ha and tha. Here ha means the sun, tha means the moon. Pingla Nadi represents the sun or Suryaswar, and Ida Nadi, the moon or the Chandraswar, is the left one. Hatha means the yoga to bring balance between the sun and the moon, or the Pingla Nadi and the Ida Nadi in us. With this union, the Kundalini, which is in the latent state, would be awakened, and through the Sushumna it starts upward journey. It crosses all the chakras while heading towards the Sahasrara chakra. There it unites with Brahman in Brahmarandra and stays forever there in the world of bliss. This is the union of Atma and Paramatma. With this union, the ignorance of the practitioner would be eliminated, and he then glimpses the radiance of divine enlightenment. All the sufferings would be uprooted. Therefore, this state of the union is called the yoga. This is the valid sense of Hatha Yoga. The aim of Hatha Yoga is to control the body and the mind. This is because without strengthening and making the body and mind healthy, no spiritual endeavor gets accomplished. To make this union possible, the four following angas or paths of practice are described in Hatha Yoga Pratipika. They are asan, pranayam, mudras and nad anusandhan. In Gharanda Samhita, the practices of Hatha Yoga are described as Saptanga Yoga. Kriya, that are the Shatkarmas, asan, mudras, pratyahar, pranayam, dhyan and samadhi. The purification happens by the regular performance of the purification practices. Asanas or the postures give strength to the body. Mudras provide steadiness. Pratyahar bestows calmness. Pranayam imparts lightness or laghima. Dhyana, the meditation, gives perception of self. Samadhi gives nirliptata, the isolation which is verily salvation. By practicing this method, one becomes free from all kinds of bondages and gets salvation. There is no doubt about it. Thank you.